screen and Teams here, my cheat codes over here. Okay, you can see my browser, I'm guessing. Yes.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yep.
So, hi everyone, and thanks Matt for having me. Hi Amanda, um, and looking forward to meet you all. I am somewhere between a creative technologist or a new media artist, if you may, and I experimented with lots of interactive media that includes AR, VR, physical installations, immersive experiences, theaters, live stuff, etc. And also future tech like blockchain, artificial intelligence, and finding ways on how to connect these with art, or more like how these are and will affect
Sahaj, it seems like you're breaking up a little bit for me, but I'm not sure if it's just me or if
It's not just you.
Oh, okay. It's others. Okay. Sahaj, maybe I'm not sure. Things were going along fine, but then you started to break up, unfortunately. Um,
Hello, can you hear me?
yep. Yep.
One second.
Thank you.
Hello.
We can hear you a little bit, Sahaj.
Okay. Sorry, I was
Yeah,
just
that
trying different microphones, and I think was
that's
it a mic issue or a network issue?
Yeah, it's all better now.
yeah,
Okay,
we can
maybe
hear
yeah.
you
If I
okay.
keep you off, so like I was saying, we are amidst the making of cyborg generation. That's where my practice sits in, and we are already half cyborgs in a way. Like if we when we say cyborg, we I think we kind of imagine physically plugged inside of our bodies, these machines and stuff, but not really. We are at that stage, but we are plugged in more strongly through our senses like ears, eyes, touch, in kind of an invisible but a very strong way. And alongside sharing my works to give an insight on my practice, I want to introduce this concept of chaos. What is chaos? It's a formless matter supposed to have existed before the creation of the universe, the origin, it's the unknown, it's unpredictable behavior of a deterministic system. What does this mean as a practitioner? Um, you have the idea, but not really. How? The origin, the unknown. You don't even know what you don't know. It's kind of extensive research followed with smaller practical experiments into the bigger picture. It's unpredictable behavior, flexible, super experimental, playful in your approach, ideas, and outcome. It can look something like this, thousands of tabs, not knowing where you are, but somewhere there. Or something like this, a little joke, Unity joke if you're into Unity and interactive game engines. So one of the first things when I came to MAGI was my technical inquiry was how do I break this VR headset. Now, when I'm saying break things or create chaos, a part of it means is modding things or going beyond on how things are intended to be used normally, and that's where the experimentation and new stuff emerges. So for this experiment, technically what I wanted to do was um, when I'm looking right, I want to look left. That was my inquiry because in physical world when I look right, it always you cannot look left, right? But imagine if you change this perception of yours, which has been intrigued in your human psyche for thousands of years, and you change this immersive perception of how you move changes your environment, what effect will it have on you, um, not physically, but mentally? And then I had a conceptual inquiry about around immersion and perception and mindfulness and stuff. So what this ended up being was like, you know how in VR we rotate from a point view, but in this one you rotate it around the point view. So when you move your head, your thing rotates around an object. And the idea is that you are looking inside your own body. And a lot of my experiments, when I do things, I start to see them around as well. So this was inspired by trees. And then I started to see trees, and I could see how the aesthetics of trees are kind of similar to veins and stuff. This was also with immersive audio. So there were these 3 audio channels, and all of these created music together, playing different instruments. This is also a web-based experience. So when I got into VR 2-3 years ago, I was looking into developing it, and I realized there's HTC Vive, there's Oculus, and for each of them, when you are developing, you need to get into different SDKs. Then there's also Windows build, there's Apple builds, which is a huge thing. Then there are things like Steam VR, which is top, but then what if you want to include some other more VR headsets? And that's where I got into web VR. It's VR experience overlay over browser. It works on browser, mobile phones, all VR headsets, even computers. So it might be something to look at if you're doing VR stuff. And I'll be showing some smaller experiments, trying to give a hint on how they fit into the bigger picture. Now, I didn't see them fitting into the bigger picture at that moment. It felt very chaotic, but now that it's done, I can see how I did this and that went into my bigger thing. So here from VR, I jumped into more physical interactivity in real world, and I was using leap motion for this. From there, I combined physical interactivity on the VR headset, and this was a collection of works of smaller experiments. And maybe I should save this because I think it's a secret in MAGI till we reach this stage in the subject. If you recognize this hand, it's outside RMIT MAGI Studios, and during one summer it was broken. Someone sat on it and broke the other half. And I like this hand, it's an interesting sculpture. So I thought, what can I do to fix it? I am not a sculpturist, but maybe as a technical artist, I can do something with AR. And this was the idea, that it tracks your broken sculpture and it reveals the part of your broken sculpture. Now, this is also interesting in sense of showing or preserving history. These kind of things can be used in museums and historical places to show the tracking of buildings, how things are breaking down over the years. You also have like a digital copy of it preserved. And then I got this new toy in MAGI, which was a, sorry, I'm lagging a bit. Can you guys hear me or?
Yeah, we can.
Very sure. Yep.
Okay. Then I got this toy in MAGI, depth camera, and funny story, I had this idea and I asked Grace and Kate, maybe I can get this thing I wanted, and in a few weeks that was there in MAGI. So what I'm trying to elaborate is, you have a really good space right now in MAGI. Use it and have fun with it and be there for the opportunities. So this was an experiment I did, and if you go into RMIT MAGI Expo space in after hours, after 5, there's just group of dancers who used to go there and do b-boying and stuff. So what I did was I put this camera and I was looking into audience, them as being the live thing which creates the artwork. So it's a depth-based artwork, and it looks something like this. So here I'm still inquiring more into physical interactivity and how you can mod your environment through physical interactivity. I'll remove there. And this was a smaller experiment I did around audio reactivity. Now, okay, I'll expand on this more in the next slides, but I really see the audio and music plays a big part in my lots of things I do. I had a background in sound design, and I was doing professionally DJing, not professionally, but after I was DJing in my bachelor's. And then I came into interactivity. So sound and music has been a major part in my practice as well. And I really find visualizers very trance-inducing. And here, if this plays. So I call this neuron architecture, and it's basically each neuron, it affects to your particular frequency of the music. And also it's generative by code, so each time it's new and unique. Most of these experiments I'm showing, it's done in Unity, which I think most of you would be familiar with. It's a game engine to do interactive stuff. And so moving on from there, what I did was I combined this audio reactivity. I combined that leap motion, physical hand tracking, with the stereo camera, which I showed in the dance videos, and then I combined my AR kind of understandings from the sculpture, and I combined VR, and this was like a rich XR hybrid AR VR experience. And I'm not sure about most of you, or because we are different generations. I was the kid who would stare at those Winamp or Windows Media Player screens in early 2000s and 2008. Yes, this was Project 3. This was Studio 3. So those softwares, Winamp and Windows Media Player, were really, I think, essential, and they were one of the most used softwares in 2008 in early computers in 2000s. And then my inquiry here was, what's the next generation of musical experiences and these abstract visualizers? So this was like an audio reactive music experience, and sneaky little video of a random person raving there in last MAGI Expo in 2018, I guess. And interacting with it, it looks something like this. You're wearing like a huge cyborgish thing on your head. Now in future, I hope these will get more compressed. But it's really fun to be in there, and it's fun to see other people do it from outside as well. And maybe I can show like a small drag through this of how it's done. Now, if you recognize the space, it's our lovely MAGI studio in very, very, very late after hours of the sessions on a nice Friday or Saturday night. And it's in a XR environment. This is the thing you'll regret missing if you were drunk at the inappropriate time, Shuang Hu says. And also the sound design. I did the sound design for this. It's myself. Now I would recommend like collaborating with the sound designer. But if you already have works, if you already have music from 3 years, and you're looking into experimentation, I would say go for it and do something with it. Because it was much easier for me to cut sounds and how the way I want it, and it's also interactive music experience. So right now what's happening is we are waiting for the users to do the interaction that is collide these particles with this object, pineal gland, and I'll expand on that later. And during this time, the sound starts to loop, but in a way that you don't really notice. So it's a perfect loop. And as soon as you collide objects, it moves further, and then it starts to fade into the next phase of the sound, which then starts looping and waits for another interaction of the user. And this was particularly a really fun experiment, very abstract. And in between, when you're at a stage, you have done a few things with the experience, your reality, I would say here, kind of starts to fade, or you see these black spots around you, and you go from XR environment into a virtual reality environment. So that was a technical thing I wanted to do. I was doing VR in semester 1, I was doing AR in semester 2, and in semester 3 I was like, oh, what now? I've done AR, I've done VR. Maybe I should combine both of these. And there it fades away into an astral realm. And I had conceptual things around this, which I'll expand when I'm showing the talk, but it's around the ideas of your waking reality, dream reality, astral worlds, astral travels, um, random new age internet stuff. And this is all in VR, in 3D. Now you're seeing this in a 2D screen sitting at your home, but imagine this around you in 3D. You can look everywhere. This is quite roller coastery. Uh, I saw people kind of losing their balance when doing this. In a fun way, there were things around to hold on to. So if you are into roller coasters and things like that, doing VR is a very good environment to experiment with. Quite roller coastery understatement. Ah. From there you go into this multiverse, and here this is like an archive of you and everyone. Idea is everyone is a reflection of you, connected through stardust, and whatever you do is it reflects in everything. And then you fade away, and it's like you open your eyes back into the world, and when you open your eyes you have a portal, because why not? When you're doing XR, I really wanted to do the portal and go through things like Narnia. And inside the portal was my work Meraki, which I showed from my studio semester 1, which you can just explore. It's just a space, and there's a nice quote in the end which I would leave with if you do the experience. And this was followed by the book, and I'll run. So this was followed by an AR book, because if you are doing an XR rich XR thing, your book should be unique as well. So it kind of naturally flowed into the thing and made sense to do a book which had the AR. This was done through Spark AR, Facebook filters. I would like to show, and these are all there. There are also some technical behind the scenes. So if you're interested in it and how it's done, there are videos there. But I will quickly just walk through this for some of the tech stuff. So like this was my setup. Another setup which offers this is HTC Vive Pro. Now FOV is better in this setup, but I think depth of field and the range of depth is better right now in this setup. And I was using Illusion of Life for my concept development. It was very different in the starting. All I wanted to do in the starting was have bubbles around me and play with the bubbles. And why bubbles? Because I think Win or someone, she got that bubbles in MAGI Studio, and they were just playing, people were just playing with bubbles in MAGI Studio, like real bubbles. And like, what if these bubbles were interacting with the music? And that's what I wanted to do. That was the idea. And I had that in mid-semester, but always after mid-semester, my concepts kind of take a huge turnover, and they're like, okay, no, I don't wanna. I wanna expand, make it more complicated, make it hard for myself. Maybe recommended, maybe not. No comments there. And then there was this concept of pineal gland, and just some random concept, which I wanted to come up with to explore my technical inquiry. And what I wanted to show here is director in Unity, director and timeline. This is like an advanced animation in timeline. If you're into Unity and looking into things, I would totally recommend looking into director, where you can do interactive timelines, play stuff. And this is FL Studio, where I did most of my audio stuff, cutting and creating synths. And some of the derived experiments from it, which I will touch on further. This was my, so now I was looking into from AR, VR, hybrid of AR, VR. In Studio 4, I started to go into more physical installations. And so one of the physical installation things is interactivity, right? And how do you achieve interactivity? Now, I wanted to achieve interactivity on a large environment, say like a 40 square meter field, big fields. And to track things there, you need lots of sensors, which if you are using depth sensors like Xbox Kinect and stuff to track your people, it's mostly just a range of 20 meters with a very limited FOV, and it gets very expensive if you are doing in a bigger fields. And that kind of inquiry led me into doing my research project, and I call it SZ Loca. Is SZ just my initials and locations for Loca. And here I was also inquiring on artificial intelligence and computer vision. So what are the tools which kind of plug into these inside Unity, and how I can expand on this? So I took this OpenPost Unity plugin, which gives you like a 2D skeletons, and I had my own mechanic on top of it, which converted these 2D skeletons into the 3D space, and you get like a 3D representation of people. It gives you a rough pose and position, and once you have rough pose and position, you can do lots of things with it, if you can imagine, with interactivity in a number of industries, sports, transportation, and of course arts, which is my niche. From there on, once I had this in Unity, which was, okay, my area, I can do lots of good things with it. And there I started to go more free flow experimenting with it, and running running it through different shader systems, VFX graph, and creating just some fun things there. And this is how it's done in Unity. Sorry. So it works with your normal cameras. It's no spatial depth cameras or anything because it's computer vision, and that's the powerful of these future things. So there's lots of powerful tech which is coming out, and arts. I think arts is a really good way to experiment with it and how things can be done, how you can integrate them, and then they also later generationally later they flow into more daily use cases. And as you can see, the detection is quite janky here, but I would say use the defects as a strength and call it abstract, and the way you render it and make things post-process it, call it abstract, and it becomes perfect symmetry in chaos. These are some of the smaller experiments from my experimentation. This is just a play while I was doing ray marching. I wanna maybe expand on ray marching here, which is an interesting stuff. So if you are looking into infinite worlds, infinite fractals and stuff, ray marching is something which you might want to look into. It's rendering but without meshes, so you can do infinite graphical shader coding there. And I want to show this because this is my inquiry in web AR. While I was doing AR, similar to web VR, when I got into this, should I develop for HTC Vive? Should I develop for Oculus Rift? Should I develop for some random Asian SDK? And in AR, when I got into AR as well, there was this thing. Oh, okay, there are iPhone users and now there are Android users. Now, should I develop for Android or should I develop for iPhone? So I got into looking into web AR, and this was just an idea. Around travel MAGI card. So you put your MAGI, you put it on your MAGI card and it shows you the travel map. This is done through Facebook filters, Spark AR. I also randomly contacted these guys at Cards for a Cause, and they do like charity cards, and they were like, yeah, this is a fun thing and maybe we'll include it on our website. So just random messages on the internet. I would encourage that. And if you're into web AR and stuff, looking into doing AR stuff, definitely I can maybe point you through some things there. This is one of just a small VR experiment I did. Now, this particular week for me was, I remember, because this was a very hectic week for me. We had APD, I had Studio 3 going on, and I was also working on this theater project, which I'll show in next slides. And this particular visual was needed for that theater project. So what I ended up doing was, there's my APD secret story. I did this thing for the theater project, which also came through MAGI. So it was kind of part of MAGI, not part of MAGI, but through MAGI. And I expanded on the same idea, so building on the same technical base, and rendered a few things from there. But you prioritize APD, Matthew Riley says. I'll tell that. I can say this now because maybe I'm not studying. I didn't prioritize. I prioritize timelines rather than subjects. Like if this needs to be done, it needs to be done. So I expanded on the same environment, did a few renders, and luckily the theme was places. And I was also I was thinking on immersion and stuff, and doing this theater which is around immersion. So I start to see this kind of practice starts to fall together in your life and start seeing it everywhere. And just run through Google, put some of your research things there, and voila, you have two shots from a single arrow. And I also ended up putting this in VR and showing it in VR. So that's like in the MAGI Expo. And there were three shots from a single technical base. But they were not same, but you can expand on your technical things. And what I'm coming into is wherever you can, try to connect your experiments with each other, and they kind of fall into the bigger picture later. But you don't see this and you don't think about that, the bigger picture in amidst of it. This was done in Unity. And I also showed this because this visual was done for the theater project. I showed this to the director in Expo, and she started crying because it was very immersive, and she was also attached to this visual. And I think VR gives you that power. VR has that power to really immerse you in this experience and go inside it. And when I saw her crying, that was kind of a good memory for me. Like, she was not crying in a bad way. I don't mean that. She was crying in a very, oh, this is nice way. And things like that, seeing other people, how your art touches other people's life and maybe affect their lives in a positive way, that's very rewarding. So just to put your things out there, that's a very good thing to do. And this is actually the theater project. How this is like a immersive. So now I started to go deeper into bigger live installations. And this is like an immersive 360 theater. And funny story how I got this opportunity. So this was after hours in MAGI Studio during Projection Club. And I heard Chris was talking to Homie, this guy which was one semester above me in MAGI, randomly about this project, immersive theater. And I was sitting there and like, oh, this sounds interesting. Very sneakily, I slide my chair into the convo, and the rest is history. It came out to a very interesting project. Then we also got Carlo in the project. So just being there, interacting with the studio, interacting with your peers around, random convos, things like that, can feed into some cool and interesting stuff. And some behind the scenes from it. We were also having fun with the dancers in MAGI Expo space, which I showed earlier. And now this project is in production for a global tour. The thing we did was a prototype showing in our MIT MAGI black box, which was pitched to sponsors and stuff. And now it's going global, hopefully, and we are doing pre-production for it. So more on that when that happens, or if you want to go in this link later and get some sneak peeks there. So I think it's a it's a balance of order and chaos, right? We live in this world where there is order, in where we plan, think about things, what to do next, and we like to think that we are in control. In chaos, we mingle together with the increasing complexity. We create conflict, we create uncertainty. And why I'm saying this, because while I was doing those experiments, as I said, I didn't know the bigger pictures. There were lots of combination of smaller things and just mindset, okay, I want to do this now, I'll do this. I want to do this now, I do this. Oh, I did that, but that can be fed into this. oh, I did that, and that can be merged with that to create this. That was chaos, and it kind of balanced together itself with the other. From there, and I work with this Orca Collective, which actually stands for Organized Chaos. And we are just a bunch of graduates from MAGI. And we can have a story on that, how it originated, maybe when we do some Orca specific presentation. But I just want to expand on Virtual Footprints, which is like a multiplayer augmented reality location based game. And what you're seeing here is like the first experiments of it. So this is like a campsite we used to go in the forest very far away. And what I did was I just mapped it to have geotag. I geotagged it in the app, and when you go there, certain things happen. So now this was not working on my phone, and the whole way in, I was saying, "Homie, hey, homie, Win, can you see it in your phone?" Well, not Win because she uses iPhone, and we cannot do stuff with iPhone yet. But homie, can you see this app? Does anything happen? So when we reached there, it was fireworks in the app. There was a floating whale in above the sea, and there was this song, Rick Astley, "Never Gonna Give You Up." So the idea, what I'm trying to say is, put your experiments with your daily life, and this experiment kind of gave me a technical insight on how the audio is working, how geolocation is working, what are its limitations in remote environments and bigger environments, smaller environments. From there on, that experiment, so I'm just gonna have water. From there on, that experiment went on becoming this huge project, Virtual Footprints, which was part of Brisbane City Curiosity Festival recently, a month ago. So it's like a multiplayer Pokemon Go, but I would say a bit more on Pokemon Go because it has that multiplayer aspect of it, which was really important. And we saw lots of kids and people from all generation really enjoy that collaborative aspect of the app. And so you can plant trees here, and we also had this huge logo floating in middle of the garden which everyone could see. And we just saw this lady with her kid going in a row planting trees in during the whole sidewalk, and that was really fun to watch. And these are some behind the scenes from it. And this is our hotel room in Brisbane Curiosity, where we were stress testing the app. And here I really saw, so we as developers having fun. So this app was mostly done remotely amidst COVID. And this was one of the first times where we all were together. And the app was also at a good stage where we all can play together with multiplayer. And we also had multiple compatible phones, so we can all test together. And we saw Carlo here, very innocent. I saw Carlo there very innocently going crazy, spawning the trees everywhere around the room. And we also joined, and we were like, "Oh, can you see my tree? Can you see my plant? Right over there. I'm gonna water it. I'm gonna cut it out. I'm gonna destroy your tree." And that collaborative community sense in community aspect in your artwork, I realized plays a lot of important role. So it's always good to include that in your projects, where it's interactive between audience as well, but through means of your art, creating engagement through your art. This is a smaller 3D work, and why it's here, it's because it's one of the most simplest works I've done, but it has made it to my list because it has kind of traveled around. And this was done for Melbourne RCC RMIT Curatorial Collective for the theme companionship. That's like companionship in digital age, in pandemic age. And this is physically installed in Melbourne Central, if you go and look there. And from there on, I also saw this random post on the internet in one of the underground communities of Melbourne VR around blockchain art. That's art on blockchain. It's called NFTs. And I was like, oh, I have this document I recently did. Maybe I'll just shoot a message. And it got selected and it was featured in a big global VR festival attended by thousands of people and also a small expo in Miami. So what I'm trying to say here is sometimes simple things, simple concepts, but with a strong inquiry can go a long way. This inquiry, this was made around pandemic, companionship in digital age. And what this artwork means is you can go in this link later if you like and read more on that. And I also joined that hype train of pandemic, which we all were riding, that we are doing things around pandemic to spread awareness on, and also this NFT and blockchain hype, which is way over the peak right now. And I've been interested in future tech, and we have this new technology coming in blockchain and how we can do things with it. So I had this idea of doing, so blockchain works on hash and you can store any data in hash just very quickly. So the idea was if you can store immutable things in blockchain, what if you store messages in the blockchain? And this came about in inquiry where I was seeing things like, China banning their internet, social media, and censorship, internet splitting apart. So there was this smaller experiment conceptually I did where you can post messages on a blockchain in an interactive art environment. But because in the background, these messages are on the blockchain, no one can really tamper it, no one can remove it, even you if you have posted it. Not the developers, not the governments, unless of course you're taking down the internet and bigger things like that. And this was also hosted on IPFS, which is like blockchain-based decentralized websites. So you cannot really take this down at all. And my technical inquiry was really how you can store blockchain hash fields and how you can connect Unity, which is my niche. How do I connect Unity with this thing I'm passionate about, blockchains? Further, I went deeper into it, doing a 2-week hackathon. Now, I won't get much into the technical stuff here, but just on the hackathon part, I would say I would really encourage hackathons because they are a really fun way and a fast way to learn things because you kind of have that pressure, deadline, and you also have a very, very nice community. If you have a good hackathon, you will always have communities in Discord alongside it in the hackathon. And I would say just instead of just making things, engaging with the community is a very important part. During this, I learned a lot on blockchain, technical stuff, Unity stuff, and I made random friends from all over the world, which we will probably never see, which we don't know each other's identity, but we just know each other by alias in the community, in the global but underground communities. And also this game idea was fundamentally very bad because it involves finance very heavily based with blockchain. But I had this technical idea that I want to connect DeFi, decentralized finance, with Unity, and how do I do that? So I just created this small experiment or small concept around it, and sometimes I create concept which will help me with my technical exploration. Sometimes these concepts are good and rather relating subconsciously or consciously, and sometimes these concepts are just absurd, but they will help me with the technical inquiry to go forward with. And just some of the smaller corporate-y stuff, I would say this is an photorealistic archways if you're interested in things like creating architecture visualizations, how it's modeled from blueprints. This is something to look into. And currently I'm also working with AJ Stack Solutions as a freelance casual, and we are doing more of serious games. It's a category if you Google it, and they define games but educational games. And these are games for engineers where you can learn about different components, how things work, and we are working with big gas turbine companies. There are smaller games like putting things in the right places, choosing right gear ratios, explaining things through animation. And here I'm just trying to show like a process of um, photorealistic, real-time interactive environment in Unity. And all these are also web-based. They run directly on the browser, so very heavily optimized, no downloads required. And here what we had was just a PNID diagram, which is a circuit diagram from the engineering company, and a very crappy video of the facility, and we had to model it and achieve there. Now, why I'm showing this, these are because this is actually Pfizer. This is where your coronavirus vaccine, Pfizer, is made in Ireland. So it's a project for them. And why I'm showing these are because aside from art, which is also very small scale to large scale, if you follow people like Refnik Anadol or NGV, there is also institutional level of flow happening in AR, VR, and interactivity, like Boeing using HoloLens to work on planes wiring. Microsoft's main niche is institutional. There's educational bodies involving RMIT as well, which are looking into next-gen digital content. And military and defense have always been on top of the game with things like these. And with the rise and understanding awareness of remote working environments and global networks, I think these digital content will really go through a boom. So that's like an insight of the industry if you're interested in stuff aside from arts. So just ending it with chaos and a bit on that. So this is just me randomly throwing things on my keyboard, maybe. But with any, and it might look like chaos to us, but with any good algorithm, if your algorithm is good, you can find signals of order in almost random seeming data sequences. This is a hex sequence. This is a SHA-256. And if you decode it with your algorithm in computer, it reads, in all chaos, there is a cosmos. In all disorder, there is a secret order. And maybe it's all about finding symmetry in chaos, in your artwork, in your practice. And you will not, this might not be for everyone, but I would say if you feel like your practice is too orderly, put some chaos into it. If your practice is too chaotic, I've been trying to put some order into it and it's working really well. And experiment with things, change things around, and you will naturally find your own interactivity and your own practice. Like some people try like blasting headphones during doing things. Some people like it quiet. Some people just like to plug in the headphone, don't play anything. Some people like to keep having talks in between. And you can also free flow between these states of you. So be sure to free flow between yourself and feel your artwork while doing it. And have fun, because if you're having fun yourself creating something, that's one of the main things. You shouldn't care about anything else. And if you're having fun, there's high probability someone else will have fun or will enjoy your artwork. And it will affect your life. So just my secret sauce, if you're still here after 1 hour, this is the secret sauce which will really help maybe change your life and how everything works. And this says programmer, but you can really put it in any whatever your field is. It's about learning how to learn, and what it looks like under the hood is something like this. And you also, because you are here, you also have this another layer on top, which is MAGI. You have resources like mentors, teachers, friends, an amazing studio space, libraries. And in Australia, we also have really nice free public libraries to go around and have fun with, because you don't even know what you don't know. Thank you. That was me. You can find my stuff here and also my socials on campsite.bio/sz.sahaj. There's also GitHub there if you're into codes and stuff, want to check out any of the code for the projects I showed, open source projects, blockchain related projects, and Unity projects. And also, I Twitch sometimes doing myself coding or just playing games, and some other socials in there. Thank you.
Thanks, Sahaj. That was fantastic. Thank you so much. And if you've got a few minutes,
Yes.
I just wanted to see if anyone wanted to ask any questions or learn anything, learn a bit more about anything that you've spoken about. Does anyone want to ask any questions of Sahaj?
I'm also happy to go into the projects if you have some technical inquiry around things. Or you can also ping me. I'm there as a studio assistant now as well.
Yeah. Sahaj, I've got a question. What is kind of, I thought the way that you ended your talk was really fascinating. And I like that idea of sort of layers that we don't quite know yet. There's a sort of sense of mystery and sort of so on. It makes it kind of quite compelling. Do you know what's ahead for you in terms of your interests and your projects and so on? Obviously, you mentioned some of the work you're doing with Orca.
Yep.
What's sort of coming up for you, Sahaj?
So I've been this is my main practice, like interactive media, and this was my passion as well. So till now I've been fortunate enough to kind of get it in some form of my work, and casually working on more engineering or more corporate sides of military and defense, kind of more interactive stuff, serious games kind of stuff, which are good in terms of work environments, things you are doing. But aside from that, I'm also very much in touch with the artistic things I do, and that's why we started Orca Collectives. Because the idea was if we go into more, bigger things, or we can still experiment with those abstract kind of stuff like multiverse and Meraki through this collective, or even as an individual. I think that's something which helps me say or relieve. And before coming to MAGI, I didn't really used to say things about my art or what the concept is, because I treated it as music, right? Like the audience should make their own meaning out of it. But during MAGI, I realized, okay, maybe it's good to give some conceptual things around it. So I expand a bit on what my conceptual theoretical part is, but not fully. So it's still open for your interpretation and some mystery magic there. So yeah, I think I really cannot think far ahead, but just being to present, it's something I'm exploring, getting into interactive games in all kinds of fields, and also immersive theaters, live physical installations, AR, VR, Unity.
Thanks, Sahaj. Does anyone have any comments or questions, or would like to learn anything more from Sahaj?
Also, MAGI Studio. I'm really looking forward to do things with MAGI. And I remember we were having some talks with Chris about that as Orca Collective as well later.
And so, yeah, earlier on, Sahaj, we were talking about your role this semester as a studio assistant. You were saying in terms of that position and so on, you were talking about you're available on Friday normally for a few hours to assist with advice and support on students' projects. Is that?
Yes, so generally we are planning to come in the studio because we are also trying to encourage everyone to use this studio as well. It's an amazing space. Just being there creates lots of opportunity and fun because fun is, I think, one of the main factors in MAGI Studio. So I'll be there physically on Fridays, depending on how the semester, at what time of semester we are in. So Fridays will be the main day, but I'm also available other days through Teams.
That's great. Yeah. All right, Sahaj, thanks so much. And we're grateful for the talk that you just gave, which was very inspiring, but also, really pleased that you are contributing and involved still with MAGI as an assistant. And, I think, I really hope that students take advantage of that opportunity. So thanks so much, Sahaj. Really, again, just very grateful, and it is, it's great to see how prolific you were when you put all those projects together and see all that kind of activity. It really, demonstrates, such an engagement with your practice, and it was great that you put most of it in the context of, exploring some kind of inquiry, a genuine inquiry. And I think that sort of curiosity and kind of willingness to kind of really dive into something was really evident. So it's really, I think, it's great that you're able to share that, because it's a really important part of being in the MAGI studio. Thanks so much, Sahaj. Really, really grateful.
Well, thank you, Matt, and everyone. It was really a nice experience being in MAGI because, well, just the way it's structured, I would say you're at a very good space, and you can link things between APD, CPS, and your studios and your research projects. Now, in the starting, I remember in Studio One, that was hard. It's harder to do because you don't really know the subjects well. But once you start to get in the studios, it kind of starts to free flow naturally, where if I need to just put it literally, it will help that you can do smaller experiments in APD and CPS. You can use illusion of life and animated narratives to create your concepts. Maybe you can do studios to link these experiments to something if something bigger is coming out, and you can create research projects out of that. And also the resources which MAGI provides as a student, if you are looking into something, feel free to ask, maybe a random convo, maybe it might become something. So that was very nice space to be in, and very grateful that I got to experience it and now being here again.
Question, Sahaj. You mind if I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So you seem to have a lot of projects that use different kinds of technologies. Is there a emerging technology right now that you think in the future?
Big question, but right now what I can see in front of my eyes, which I'm also involved in, is artificial intelligence. You can do lots of things in it with art. You can do generative content. You can do tracking stuff with AI. The AI has been in games for a while, but it's also, there's things like around computer vision which is happening. You can expand on with arts, and it really expands on its limitations. And my research paper is there if you want to go into tracking stuff. And the other more controversial, I would say, it was a few years back at least, blockchain.
Controversial? Oh,
Well,
yeah.
blockchain stuff like few years back, if you used to say blockchain, it was very frowned upon if, sometimes
Right.
because it's very financially heavy. But aside from that, if you really get into the technology itself, you can program things in an immutable way, and it can be used in games and stuff. If you are really looking into stuff like that, I would say go into that hackathon thing I did and watch the video there and get into that hackathon that's called ETH Online,
Oh, okay.
and also AR VR, which has been kind of booming and starting more on boom. Facebook right now is heavily recruiting for AR VR stuff. Um, so people are speculating that they are coming out with AR glasses which will work with their AR filters. Also, Google is heavily involved in AR, Google AR Core.
Damn.
But this is just my niche, right? I'm sure there's much of other things which wide diversity of MAGI can expand on, and future techs which are coming. And any future tech, if you see something, maybe try to see, okay, there's this thing which is coming up. How can I push this in the art? Pencil and paper, Chris Parker says. That's a universal and which will always be there. Tablets, touch tablets,
Awesome.
projection
Thanks,
map.
Sahaj.
All right, thanks so much, Sahaj, again. And thank you so much for the talk, and also, being involved at MAGI as an assistant as well. And hopefully we can catch up soon.
Right. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice one and see you around.
Thank you so much, Sahaj.
Thank you. See you, everyone.
Thanks, Sahaj.
Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you, Matt. See you, everyone.
See you.